Hello everybody, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today, I'm just going to film some sketching. I have a 8 by 10, well 8.5 by 10.5 sheet of, I think this is Bockingford tinted watercolor paper, or toned watercolor paper. Either the oatmeal or, there's another one, but they were so close in value that I really didn't distinguish between the two, differentiate between the two. But anyway, I'm just going to sketch freehand a fleur-de-lis, and then from there probably add some other stuff to it. So you're welcome to watch and just hang out and enjoy. You're welcome to follow along if you want. I'm not really good at the fleur-de-lis, but I'm practicing them because I'm using them as the kind of compass rose for these maps that I'm drawing of my hometown. And people in Louisiana really like fleur-de-lis. So it's kind of just something to add to what I offer at markets and whatnot. So I'm going to freehand this. I'm really not going to use any measurements or anything like that. It's just always kind of been the way I have been. I always really admire people who can take the time and have the patience to really do these type of things where they're drawing the grids, they're measuring everything out, etc. Probably one of the reasons I prefer watercolors fast and loose over drawing. And drawing takes more time than watercolors or oils for me. So I'm marking out the top tip of the fleur-de-lis, and then this is kind of that narrow band that will pull the three pieces together. Then we'll have the peak of one about here, and the bottom of them. In general, they seem to coincide with that bottom of that band. These side pieces. I started looking up the history of fleur-de-lis and all that, and then I was just like, whoa, okay, never mind. It started off saying that it was like the flower of the lily, but wasn't really a lily. It's a different flower, and then at that point I was like, okay, this is a convoluted history. I'm just gonna leave it be. So this is gonna be my top peak. These are gonna be my sides. I like to kind of just make gestural marks of where things are, just like if I was mapping out somebody's head and their shoulders and whatnot. Or even if you watch me sketch a landscape, a master study, like I'll do things in this fashion where I'll kind of map things. I have platinum carbon ink, fountain pen ink, in this Noodler's Boston Safety Pen, which is like a really great light fast ink, really popular amongst artists. And the nib I put in was a vintage nib. It's Welties was the brand, which sometimes you can find it for cheap on eBay. And when I say cheap, I mean like $20, $30 for the nib. But it's comparable to a Waterman number 2 nib. So it has some flex and some line variation to it. I'm not using it right now. I'm just kind of playing with these ideas. The safety pen, the nib retracts into the unit itself. And sits within the ink, and the cap screws down so that it's like flush with it. So it's like a sealed bottle. But you got to be careful. I've had people like kind of just pick up this pen to look at it and open it and just get ink all over themselves. And so it's not kind of a first buy fountain pen for people. So the pen does have some really nice uses where you can use India ink and other stuff in it. It's one of the only fountain pens that allow that. There's maybe 2 or 3 others on the market that work in that fashion, but I don't use India ink or the acrylic ink, mainly because I haven't figured out how to completely disassemble this pen to do the cleaning that's necessary if you use inks that have like a shellac in it or something like that. This is going to be the band. I'm going to give it a curvature. So when I look at fleur-de-lis online, the band kind of ties the 3 pieces together. Some will kind of sit flush with that middle one, and some will have a gap between it. And what I mean is the side, I'll just call it petals. That's what I'll refer to it as. I'm going to bring it up to this point a little bit closer. I want to get the idea that it's going to be curving over. I am frankly envious of people that have super amazing calligraphy skills, and I don't mean like hand lettering or anything like that. I mean like pure flourishes and really beautiful stuff. I just don't have. I feel like that's a lifelong art with a lot of dedication to it. So I've found that sometimes with these, I add extra lines to kind of make things start working better. Bring that down right there. Bring that down right there. Bring it in. Bring it in. I could use a French curve tool for these, but I believe you want a pen that would sit more flush against the edge of the French curve. Okay, just getting the form there, and then I'll kind of make it more interesting. So it tightens the band We'll have our middle one come down here to this point here. These outside ones here and here, and they'll curve out, but I just want to kind of get a shape of this one first. So I can sit everything around it. Let's use this point and this point, this point and that point. That'll be the end. So that'll come down some here, come down some here. Between those two, up between those two. Okay, so I have everything more or less mapped out. Now from here, I'm going to play around with just little accents or changes in design. We'll see. Kind of start with a little bit of cross hatching. This ink, when dry, doesn't smear, but I just have to get it to that point. Kind of a little bit of a roundness effect to these bands. I'm adding these marks to the right side of all these lines. That was my elbow. Passing over these lines. It's raining down here today. Been getting a lot of rain the past few days, so I haven't really been able to go skateboarding and all that. I mowed a few days ago, so now it's just a matter of waiting for everything to dry off so I can mow again. Gotta be careful that I don't smudge. Adding a little dimension to these guys with these lines. I should have probably started on the left side, since I'm left-handed. Sorry, on the right side since I'm left-handed. Not used to having the luxury of turning the paper underneath my hands. Usually, since I have the watercolor down on the board, which I have to do since I do wet and wet, it starts to buckle, and then I can use that board and the clips to kind of smooth it out. You've probably seen me doing it in a lot of videos. I was never one for sketching. Maybe a little bit younger, but I wasn't somebody who had filled up their entire notebook at school with sketches. And I think people that had done that then are now just amazing artists. I belong to a few Facebook groups where it's like pen and ink enthusiasts, and I don't bother sharing any work on there, not out of like fear or anything like that. It's just I know I don't hold a candle to the amazing art that other people are producing, which might sound contradictory to what I'm always saying, you know, join Facebook groups, share, get feedback and all that. I just don't think my sketches are at the point where I can really get good feedback. For example, I've been playing around with the little trinket making, and on the jewelry Facebook page is like just asking questions like, hey, what do you do to adhere to this or to combine these? And you know, people, you know, are making stuff out of silver and gold and all that, and I'm just kind of putting little trinket gifts together. And it's kind of like joining a watercolor group and saying, what's a brush? Not like a specific brush or anything like that, like just literally like, what is a brush? And that's how I feel compared to the, you know, the topics that people are talking about on there. Just how absolutely amazing they are. But I think regardless of like all the kind of the positivity that I put out there about, you know, sharing your art and all that, I do think, and it's not like a flaw or anything like that, people will have mediums that they're good at and mediums that they are okay at and mediums that they're bad. For example, for me, acrylic is something that I just have trouble with. I tried it a few times. I probably hadn't given it enough chance to really try it, but I can tell you right now, I just wasn't that good at it. Maybe it was coming from the oils and the drying time, or the inability to re-wet, I guess, you know, versus watercolor. So, you know, that's just something where I have trouble with it, but I don't think I needed acrylics in my bag of tricks. I think the things that I work with, you know, I decided watercolor, oil, pen and ink, gouache. It's probably more than enough. Mediums. It's kind of like, and you'll find this, if you, actually Stuart Davies was talking about this recently in one of his videos. He had posted a video of him doing an imaginary portrait, and you know, he was wiping back, he was creating stuff, creating that portrait. And I'll tell you now, it was really good. It was something that I got a lot of value from it. But throughout, Stuart Davies was saying that he had lost his touch. He used to be a portrait artist, and he had shared some photos of what he had done during that video, and what he was doing really didn't, hold a candle to what he used to be able to do. And I remember seeing his previous works somewhere, probably on his page, and he had said portraiture is something that you have to do very often or you kind of lose it. And I kind of agree with that. You can explore both things, landscapes, still life, so all three things, and portraiture work. But if you move away from one of them long enough, there's a little bit of a learning curve to get back into it, shaking off the dust. Now, I'm thinking that I'm going to write Abbeville, Louisiana above. And maybe the phrase for Abbeville below. And I might get color going into this, we'll see. Abbeville, the town that I'm in, was established in 1850. So I'm going to do that. This is something where you think, oh man, I should totally map it out. But what I think I'll do is, I'll take a straight edge, just do a little bit of a drawing of a line. And that's where I'll write Abbeville, Louisiana on. Fountain pens really aren't the best with those edges of the French curve. Abbeville, and right up here, Louisiana. I always feel like I'm going to spell it wrong. Abbeville, Louisiana, 1850. Just draw a line right there. And then the phrase for Abbeville, Louisiana, I have to pull it up because I always spell it wrong, and it's in French. Let's see. Abbeville, Louisiana flag. The flag doesn't have the fleur-de-lis on it, but it has the town motto. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. Pour Dieu et le patrie. I think it's for God and Translation. That's why it's great to have these Kindles on the side right here. For Dio et la Padre. Actually, let's play it. Is it going to play the audio?
Pour Dieu et la Padre.
There you go.
Pour Dieu et la Padre.
For God and... Is it not translating Padre? I don't know if it's God in town. Anywho, sorry about that little side thing. So, Por Dio et Padre. Okay, so that's how I'm gonna shape that one out. Come down to the edge down here. Leave a gap. There you go. P-O-R O-U-R. And then P-A-T-R-I-E. Dio et la Padre. Okay. So play around with giving this a little bit more dimension. I am tempted to take the state of Louisiana and sketch it behind. And kind of start colorizing it. I want to see how everything looks before we get to that point. I'll take a little bit of black ink and kind of maybe add shadow to this. So it'll be kind of a pen and ink wash. The great debate now is, do I put the Louisiana boot shape behind it? It'd be the top. It would come here. It would come here. It would come out. That's what I'm going to do. So let me kind of mark off a little bit. That would be the corner of the boot. I'll bring the boot to this side, and it'll come out and down. It'll come across the top. It'll come in, it'll come out. It'll go about here. Then we come down about here. This is the bottom corner. That comes there. We'll have our other piece right there. Now this line is going to be straight. It's like a pretty straight border. Was it Arkansas up there? Then we do have part of a straight border here. And then it comes in some. This is the other top. Right here. That's that corner. Bring it down. Kind of just letting it get a little shaky line edges for the more coastal areas. Kind of tie it together. Okay. Now, let's talk about an ink wash. I think a light ink wash on the State would be nice. Let me pause this for a second. I need some water for this. Okay, I'm back with some water. I'm gonna grab, let's see. Color of black or brown? I think maybe black for the background and then brown for the foreground. So we'll get a little bit of difference in it. I'll use the Dr. P.H. Martin fountain pen ink. Sorry, not fountain pen ink, India ink. I just need a little drop. I need a nice brush that I can use to kind of fill it in. I thought I had a small round, but apparently I do not. Let's grab this guy. I'm going to water this down quite a bit so it's nice and light. I'm wondering, should I leave a little bit of texture in there? Or we'll just let it happen. Painting inside the lines. This is a Chinese brush. I think it's half and half. Weasel hair and goat or sheep. Try to pull some of that water out. Grab some water. Okay, that should be enough right here to do this whole square, this whole shape. Yeah, I'm glad I decided to tone this fella. This brush is really good for kind of getting that right up on that edge. Then next, I'm just darkening this side a little bit more just because of how dark the other side is. I want a little bit more uniformity. So I should have mixed a bigger batch of watery ink, but that's how you learn. That is how you learn. It's pouring outside. I'll leave a little bit of texture there. Okay. Now I want the brown ink. So this is P.H. Martin, Dr. P.H. Martin brown ink. One drop. This will be kind of for the shadow side of everything. So let me know what colors you would have used. I might wind up adding some other colors in a moment, but I'm gonna play that by ear. kind of tempted to do a little brush mark underneath each one of these lines. Let's see. Anything else? I could mix a little bit of black with this brown for some of the darker areas just to get a little bit more variety. I think this might be better than adding like a gold or a yellow. Oh. Let's see. It does look pretty. Does look pretty. I don't want to overdo it. I do think, like I said, mixing that black in with the brown was helpful. We could probably even find darker darks, but I think I'm going to pause it and dry off, and we'll see how it looks underneath the mat. Okay, here it is underneath the mat. Let me sign it. I hope you enjoyed. Of course, please like, subscribe, and follow. Let me know what you think. What inks would you have used? What colors would you have used? I gotta move this way now. You almost forget how to spell your last name. And there we go. All right, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you all soon. Have a great day. Bye.